start the meeting off thanking God and have Carol give us a prayer. Please, I have you stand if you would. If you can, if you can't, don't worry about it.
Heavenly Father, during this historic pandemic the world is experiencing, we acknowledge your Holy Spirit presence in our midst, guiding us. We are assured and know that all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. There are many things we do not understand that are happening in the world, but we put our hope and trust in you. May your peace abide in us as we abide in you. Give us wisdom and guide our path in securing liberty for our United States of America. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thanks, Carol. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thanks, right there. Then you can sit down. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to introduce the people. We have our guest speakers today. They're our commissioners, local commissioners. They're all great people. I'd also like to take a minute to remind everybody of what they do, because I'm not sure everybody realizes what the commissioner's function is, what their job is. Can everybody hear me okay? Basic description of the responsibility of the county commissioners is they apply budget, or they approve budgets, oversee spending, and hire county employees. The Board of Commissioners, I didn't know this. The Board of Commissioners has been a part of our local government since the colonial time. Back then they had commissioners. So they're a well-established group, and they do a lot of things for us. The number of commissioners in a given area is generally based on the population in the area. With that, I'm going to turn this over to them and let them tell you about themselves for a few minutes. So we'll start with you, Brendan, since you're standing around the end. Pick up the mic there and tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
So my name's Brian Zender. I've been an Elmont resident for most of my life. I own a local repair facility in Elmont, and we sell cars. Been doing that for 33-ish years. Also own some real estate, do some rentals that way. Been on the fair board for, I think, 13 or 14 years, something like that. Been heading up the track events for the fair board. That's one of my main responsibilities, kind of taking care of the grandstand area and the concession area. Wonderful board we have working with the fair board. It's been a lot of fun. Accomplished a lot of great things. This building that you're in currently is, a couple years old now. We had the little dungeon across the drive there. It was our office for many years. We spent a lot of money on the fairgrounds, doing a lot of upgrades that you didn't necessarily see. The electric, the water, things like that. Not quite as exciting as putting up new buildings and things like that. So when we got to that point where we could afford to do that, we put up the FFA building and redid this building here. So I want to welcome you all to the fairgrounds. Looking forward to having the fair end of July. By all means, come out and see us and support us. Other than that, as far as county commission goes, I've been on for about 4 months now. I'm the newest member of the commission. Certainly not the youngest, but the newest. So it's been very interesting. Another great bunch of guys to work with. It's really been interesting. Gary has put me on the Properties Committee. I'm the chairman of that, and that really is kind of up my alley. So I really enjoy that one. Other than that, I'll pass it on to Gary.
My name is Gary Roy. I usually don't use the microphone because most people can generally hear me. But I'm the District 2 Commissioner. When I first started out on commission, I was District 3. I have basically the same district. The only thing is the numbers changed. So I had to change all my cards and everything else at one particular time because the clerk felt it was good for me. I have a district that has 5 townships in it. It has 2 villages, 4 fire departments, and 37% of the land area of the county. So I have it's not door to door for Gary out in my district when it's time to run for the job. I didn't run for county commissioner until I was 60 years old. I had already spent 40-some years in business. I owned my own business for many years. I haven't been actually doing that business now for maybe 10 years. My youngest son runs it now. So that's pretty much where that's at. I live out in Goodland Township. I've lived out in Goodland Township since 1983. I think 83. Prior to that, we lived in Emily City. I lived in Emily City. In fact, I grew up in Emily City. And went to school there in Emily City. Between my business in Emily City, I spent 3 years in the Marine Corps. And so that'll give you kind of a background. I'm also the chair of the board. So as you can see, we passed out this particular document that says 2021 Board of Commissioner Chairman Appointments. You can see that the Board of Commissioners is very busy. A lot of these different agencies and whatever we're voting members of those. And I think you'll see that there's at least 30 of them on there where we're voting members. So there's assignments all over. You're going to look at the top. The Board of Commissioners is also we're the Public Health Board. We ended up the Public Health Board a few years ago. We're also the collaborative, but we're also the Planning Board. Over the years, we've ran out of volunteers for many of these different offices and things. We just don't get volunteers. People just don't volunteer for things anymore. So it's pretty tough to fill some of these positions. So we also, what we need to talk about a little bit here, because Dial had us fill this out this morning. Had Doreen make this up for everybody in the room. This is basically our general fund budget, which is about $18 million a year. We also have community mental health that falls under the county. Community mental health has a budget of about $25 million on top of this $18 million. And we also have a PIP that's actually over and above that community mental health. And the $25 million community mental health and the PIPs, they take about $10 million more of it that goes to St. Clair County to be distributed back to Lapeer County. One particular time we didn't have anything to do with that. We also have the medical care facility, known as Suncrest, that we're responsible for. That's another $25 million operation. If you look a little deeper, you'll find about $100 million when you talk about total all funds. If you want to include all of that, so we're there. 2 of us, Rick Warren and I, are on Michigan Works. Michigan Works started out in the thumb. I sat on Michigan Works for many, many years. In fact, I've been on every committee that you'll see on here. That's how I ended up chair, because I used to take time to go to all the meetings. But it's been a little tough this last year, I want to tell you. I was used to always go to, township board meetings and everything. This last year's been kind of tough, with the townships being locked down, nobody having meetings, nobody having face-to-face meetings. So I kind of look forward to this starting all up again. Thank you for the invitation, because we haven't had a chance to really, other than our board meetings, which we have every Thursday, we've done them in person all year. So just to let you know that. So I'll pass this on to Brendan.
All right, can you hear me? Yes. All right. So my name is Brendan Miller. I'm the County Commissioner for District 1. That is Marathon, Deerfield, and Rich Townships. That's in the northern quarter of the county. Normally, if I was to drive from home, I'd be the first one to drive here today, but I was actually driving in from Adrian this afternoon. So still the furthest out to get here. I also represent the villages of Otter Lake and Columbiaville. I grew up in the Fostoria area, if anyone knows where that is, up in the corner of the county. Literally, I look across my house and I can see both Tuscola County, Marathon Township, and Deerfield Township, and Rich Township all at the same time. So I live right on the corner there. I graduated from North Branch in 2015, so a couple years ago now. I work as a consultant for a property rights organization as well. That's my other job, because this doesn't necessarily pay full bills. Also, I serve as personnel chair for the county, which is a great opportunity. And the last civic duty I do is I serve on the North Branch Area School Board as well. Been serving in that capacity since 2016. And I've been serving here since 2018. Actually, I was elected in 2018 and started serving in 2019, so this is my second term. So I'm the second newest guy on the board now. It's been a really great honor to serve on the board. A lot of great ideas and different philosophies that come from the different board members. I can honestly say, and I think Gary and Brian would both agree, that none of us have the same wavelength when it comes to the way we think, but we all come together with a similar idea, and it's very important to have that too. We don't necessarily have a hive mind on the board, but we do have different perspectives and ideas that come together to create a pretty cohesive board. So while we're all Republicans, all of us are a little bit different, which makes us a really good mix for the commission. So I don't know if there's anything else I could add to that, but thank you for having this. And something I want to add too, I've said this before, but the Tea Party, in all honesty, is one of the greatest organizations that we have in this county to promote civic activity and duty. And it's critical that we keep this going. So thank you guys for existing and doing this. So thank you.
And I didn't pay him to say that.
Rick and Doc.
Yeah. Dial, can I come to you first? Are you there, buddy?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, would you tell me a little
I'm not coming to.
Just tell me a little bit about yourself, sir.
Yes, I will. Thank you. I spent 6.5 years in Vietnam and was a volunteer, somewhat like a Peace Corps volunteer, and had Fulbright teaching grants there. And after that, came back, worked for MSU Extension until 2002, including in Lapeer as the County Extension Director, 4-H agent, from about 1983 to my retirement in 2002. I've been on the Board of Commissioners since 2003, so Lenny Schneider and I think, tie for seniority in terms of that. Commission has always been a challenge, something that you never get old because things change and things are complicated enough. You're always learning something. So it's been very interesting, sometimes fairly calm and other times very challenging assignment. I represent one whole township, Oregon, 2/3 of Mayfield Township, and 1/3 of Elba Township. And that could change again. Every 10 years we have the census, and then based on a Supreme Court decision, districts have to be, or may have to be changed to make sure that the formula that they've set for one man, one vote is accurate. I know the last time we changed, my district changed for every township except the one township I lived in Mayfield. And I still live in Mayfield at that address. I think the two committees that I serve on in terms of the board are personnel and what we call procedures and rules and policies committee, which I'm chairing, which is a partial committee, can be active or inactive depending on what's brought to it. Personnel and our properties committee are our two very active committees. They meet at least once a month. I think the other thing I was going to mention about the committee structure and the assignments that Commissioner Roy passed out is that we all go to a variety of meetings. In a typical time, and COVID has made that change quite different, but in typical times we end up going many hours a week to additional meetings, occasionally as voting members, most often as liaisons, where we try to pick up needs, issues, information, and get opinions from people. But the job is not simply one meeting a week. I know some people have started to run for the board and then found out there was a lot more to it than that one meeting that we have weekly. The structure of our meetings alternate weeks. We have what we call a committee of the whole, and in that committee of the whole, we really, as a total board, discuss the topics. Those are usually the most interesting meetings because there's a lot of discussion and opinion given. What we agree on there then goes to our what we call full board, regular board meeting, where we confirm with a second vote. Or on occasion we change our minds or send things back maybe to a committee for study. I think those were the key things. Oh, I wanted to say too that it's important to remember for the county commission that we are really a creature of the state. We have to operate based on what they tell us to do, and we have continual conflicts with the state because they're often telling us to do things without providing resources to do them. And you'll hear us periodically talk about what we call unfunded mandates, where we're given things and told do this. And I'm sure the board members will get into a little more depth if we start talking finance about that. So that's, I guess, what I would say at this point.
Okay, thanks, Dial. Thank you for being here. Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Warren. Hello.
Speaking of me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I didn't hear that, sorry.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Good evening, everybody. Again, as Al said, apologize for not being there. I do have to say, due to the fact of COVID, I'm in the land of the free of the United States right now, so I walk around freely, and I'm coming back home on May 1st. So you'll all see me again, and I've heard several people from Michigan go back home, and all tell me that they need a passport to get back in, so it's a different world in here. A lot of you guys can't relate to the freedom that the country has, but I've been able to enjoy it because of Zooms. This last month I wasn't able to Zoom in my meetings, but I will be back in front of everybody. But anyways, I got involved in, I don't know why, but I got involved in the politics back in 2010 and got involved as far as a delegate in the county. I'm originally from Macomb County, spent most of my time in Macomb County. Been in Lapeer County since 2004. And I'm self-employed. I help with estate planning on my own. I have clients in Michigan, Florida, and here, in Ohio rather. And so I'm always back and forth to both. This gave me an opportunity to spend a little more time here though. But I got involved in politics because I thought it was time for me to get back to the community. Thought I could make a difference and help. And as a county commissioner, being that I deal with numbers and stuff, I thought this would be a perfect fit for me to enjoy the board on finances. And as I said, Dial said there's a lot more to our meetings. I've been doing a lot of Zoom since I've been down here. I'd like to see people in person. I'm a kind of person that likes to shake hands. And I'm still that same person. I'm not that person where you walk up to me today and you reach out to me, I'm going to shake your hand. I'm not afraid of what's going on right now. America's got to take a stand. But as a commissioner, we're in charge of overseeing the budgets. We're not in charge of changing the rules in the state. We're getting the guidelines that we can do. And so I'm not a good speaker, so I don't want to apologize in advance for that. I'm not here to give you big stories, but I want to tell you that as a part-time job, as a lot of people said, Al said that they think they're coming in and it's one time a week that we go meet. And we don't. I'm over Albert Township. I share it with Dial. Dial's got 1/3. I got District 2 and 3 of Albert Township. I have Hadley Township, Metamore, and Metamore Village. And we attend these township meetings as often as we possibly can. It had made it a little bit tougher with COVID because some of them weren't capable of having Zoom, and so they didn't even have meetings at all. I'm on the Lake Improvement Board in Lapeer, and so we do attend a lot of those. It's a part-time gig. Somebody told me this is going to be the busiest part-time thing you do, and it is. I have my full-time job. I actually work less at that than I do the county. I get paid a little more, but I do work less at my full-time job. But I'm proud to be a part of Lapeer County. You guys all live in a county that everybody comes together and tries to stand behind each other. And as Brenda said earlier, we might have differences, but we're all working for the same good. We're all working for each other. But lately, a lot of people have heard in the past, probably hear me again in the future. I'm looking for leadership to stand up, and I'm going to be calling out people, not names, I'm just saying leaders all across this country. Because right now we should be all free. We should all be marching down the street, shaking hands. And it's disappointing that we have, the state of Michigan right now is the #1 worst COVID case in the country. And yet it's the most restricted state in the country. Explain that to me. I'm in the freest state of the country, and we have less numbers. And I'm with the most seniors in the country, and we have less numbers. We all have to take care of each other. Wear your mask when you need to, but man, we're free. Let's all stand up and be proud of that. I'm sorry it went out there, but I'm getting nervous now because I'm coming home. Coming home in 2 weeks. The highest rated COVID cases. People questioning each other, turning at each other right now with these vaccines or whether they should take them or not take them. So it's going to be a different world for us, but we all got to start taking a stand up for each other, protect each other. And so, but that's all I have to say for tonight. Hopefully that helped you guys.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that introduction to all our commissioners here. We're going to start asking some questions. Great people. So stand by for that. I'm going to start off with the people on the Tea Party board. I have a few questions they want to ask. And so we'll start with those. All the questions that you're going to hear should be relevant to what you're here for. In my notice in the paper, it was to how COVID has impacted Lapeer County and you folks in it and how you do things. So basically, that's what we want to pertain to. But you feel free to ask any questions that they can have some input on. If you need to ask it, then it needs to be told. So with that, we'll have a few from the board, and then we'll open up to the audience. Is that all right with everybody? Okay, that's good because I'm leading this thing. Go ahead, Bill, here.
Yeah, well, first one that we had here was there may be potential, I'm sorry, there may be, first of all, thank you for being here in person and via Zoom. For everybody who's attending on Zoom, we very much appreciate that. There may be a potential funding windfall from federal code and other grants that are being provided to local units of government. Such a grant could represent a large percentage of the entire yearly county budget. Would you be, this is two parts, would you be willing to turn down such funding if there were strings attached, such as losing local control of zoning or being forced to implement policies that were detrimental to Lapeer County? And also, if a large funding grant was received, would you take precautions to prevent the spending from becoming a permanent part of the budget? The funding would be temporary, and any additions of the budget would need to be funded by taxpayers when the funding runs out.
Are you directing that to anybody?
Whoever would like to take that first. I'll go to Chairman Roy.
As far as the money coming from the federal government, we don't have the guidelines for that money yet. We will not have the guidelines until the middle of May. We've been told that we do not have the money. As soon as we get the guidelines, then we'll know. Maybe we could answer your question then, but we really can't answer it now because we have no idea what those guidelines are going to be. So as far as using that money, now I'm sure that Brendan and all the different commissioners will, agree with this. We are not going to increase the size of the county. In 2024, any of that money that's left has to be returned. Secondly, in 2024, we go back to the same budget that's in here. So we're going to have to go back to an $18 million budget. So for us to actually expand any of the departments, add more employees, would not be in the best interest of anybody in this county. I will say one thing on behalf of the county, if I could. Lapeer County has no debt. You have no debt. You are the people of Lapeer County. We actually own every building that we have. We own property. We've got no long-term debt. We've got money in the bank. We are not in dire straits by any means. So, I mean, there's about 87 other counties out there that would like to have our balance sheet. So I want everybody to know that we haven't put you in debt, we're not going to put you in debt. And it would, thank you for that. We worked pretty hard at being able to do that, but it's all yours. It's not ours. It belongs to you people. What?
I'd like to follow up on that. And like you said, we're not in debt, and we're financially sound. We've got good bond ratings when people come to us in need. We have that because of that. That being said, because when he says that we're in good shape and asset, doesn't mean that we get to go spend that freely. We don't have excess money. There's still a big circle of pie that we have. We have to stay within that pie to keep things moving that way all the time. And if we start looking at, well, you guys have some money. Some people think we have some money. We don't. There's no funding money out there. It's all up front. And we can only do what we can do inside that pie, but we got to make that pie grow again next year so that we're not running short. You start dipping into that and bringing that stuff down, then we're going to be like everybody else and hurting. So we do have the strength. You do have some good people that are concerned about your future, not just today.
Thank you for that. Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that as well. So just so you guys kind of have an understanding of, what we're assuming the rules of this money is going to be, okay? We're assuming that we're going to be able to use it for capital improvements. Things like parking lots, roofs, furnaces, things like that that need to be done, to county buildings. Some of the buildings in our Parks Department need some attention. So that's kind of where some of that money would go, potentially, for the understanding of what we have right now, at least. I think one of the other things that you folks will be pretty happy to know, one of the other areas that we're looking at to use this, again, as a capital improvement. So none of this money, that gets spent is going to have reoccurring costs to it. But Our sheriff's deputies that we have in Lapeer County right now, they do not have body cameras. We've all seen the news. We've all watched, all this stuff unfold. I think it's hugely important that we get those guys, those body cameras, for their protection and for ours. Because, these guys, it's a different world, folks. It's not like it used to be. We need to make sure that they're protected and that, that they're doing their job the way they're supposed to be. And if something happens, we have it on tape. We can go back and see exactly what happened. With, like I say, the way the world is now, it's a different place. And I think we have some great law enforcement, and we want to protect them.
Thank you for that comment. Anybody else?
Well, the only thing I would add is to that question, it was asked whether or not we would accept the funds if it meant we'd have to give away any local control. I think I can say pretty safely for the board that no, we're not giving any control to any federal government or state government because we've seen them bungled enough things. So just want to clear that up. So that's all.
Thank you. Okay, Carol, you have some questions that you'd like to ask?
With all the restrictions in place to flatten the curve, it hasn't worked. Do you feel a mandate to require everyone to get the vaccine will eventually be necessary?
Who wants to take that?
Well, I'll just say personally, I think mandates will never work because once you mandate someone to do something, even if they want to do it, they don't want to do it. Okay? I mean, it's just simple logic. I'm thinking of growing up. When you're growing up, you can clean your room on your own. You're like, oh, this is fine. But your mom says to clean your room, and guess what you're not going to do? You're not going to clean your room. So I don't think a mandate is a good idea by any means. If there were to be any sort of incentivizing of vaccinations, that's one thing. I think that would be effective, but mandates are not effective. And heck, we've seen the mandates from the state government and tell me how that's helped us in the state. I mean, Rick mentioned it himself. We have all these tight mandates in the state of Michigan, and we have some of the worst numbers in the country in regards to death and cases, even despite other states that have much less mandates, and they don't have nearly the same amount of deaths and caseload that we have in the state. So simply put, mandates don't work. Incentivization, that's one thing. That's not really something for the county, though. But yeah, and I'm actually really happy to say that as far as I know, and maybe Brian can clarify on this, but everything going on at the fairgrounds the last couple of weeks have been very successful and very smooth. So that's a great thing. So that's all I have.
Very good. Any other comments from the commissioners? No?
I would pretty much agree with Brendan. I mean, first of all, I believe that you all should get vaccinated, but I don't think the state or federal government should tell you you have to get vaccinated. That's actually the way I feel about it.
Thank you for that. Okay, next question.
I guess I'm probably the odd man out here because, personally, I don't think mandates would work either. And I think that everybody has the right to choose whether they get vaccinated or not. I tell a lot of people, if I were 20 years older, I'm sure I would have been one of the first in line to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not. And I have not got vaccinated, and nor do I plan on it. That is a personal decision. For me, I have no issue with anybody getting vaccinated or not getting vaccinated. I mean, I think it's a personal choice that everybody has to make on their own. So that's my opinion on it.
We have some storms here in Florida right now, so I was out for a few minutes, but I just got back on and got to tail into this. But speaking about vaccines, vaccines, it's not vaccine in the truest sense as the vaccines that we've known. The FDA has not approved that officially. That is an emergency situation. There's a lot of questions out there. I have doctors in Genesee County and all over, and down here in Florida, and you're seeing them across the nation. Check out drtenpenny.com. Just check out some of the stuff that's going on with vaccines. Do your homework. If you feel you need the vaccine, get the vaccine. I myself don't trust it. I don't believe in it. For me, I'm not going to get it. I've had COVID. I survived. The to die today with COVID is 99.5% chance you might die. For those who get it. And we're masking ourselves up and we're walking around like zombies. And the reason Michigan got the highest numbers is because everybody's masked up and closed up. Depression will kill you. It'll make you sick. So we all have to wake up to that. And I don't care whether you take it or don't take it. But don't tell me to and I won't tell you to. But I think in America, we need to stand up and be tall. We do not need somebody to tell us what we have to do in our lives. But we better do our homework and find out what they're putting in our bodies for our own safety. Don't do it for me or don't do it for anybody else. Do it for yourself.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Any other comments from the board on that question? If not, we're going to go to our next question from Mr. Hamilton.
Hello. Given what happened with this last election and the questionable integrity of the voting equipment used not only in this county but all over the state and other states, Dominion, if we got that federal money and you get your guidance and you can use it for there's some discretion in there, would you support getting rid of the Dominion machines and replacing them with something that isn't so questionable?
Well,
Anybody?
we don't have a lot to do with the elections.
Right.
So, it's a question for the clerk and the township authorities.
Yeah.
They run the elections.
We don't get to pick necessarily the companies either. It's actually done by state contracts, and
Right.
we just pick whatever contract they have. I would be happy to, though, and this is for anyone on the board, I'd be happy to come in and do a presentation on the election, because this is something I am very intent about. I follow election results super closely. I can talk about some of the fraud stuff. I can talk about some of the accusations. I can talk about what my thoughts are. I've read all the documents, the court documents from Antrim, the court documents from Arizona, the court documents from Florida, and the recent Sidney Powell documents, which, by the way, I think is pretty damning against voter fraud, actually. I don't know if you guys seen that, but Sidney Powell, who knows Sidney Powell? Raise your hand. Yeah, the Kraken lady. She got sued by Dominion, and I read her response to the lawsuit. And essentially what she stated is that it's not her fault that people believed her. That's what she said. But anyways, I'd be happy to come in and show the election results and go through things, so just something there. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on it, but that is beyond the county commission role. I'd be happy to talk to you about it, though.
Okay.
I do want to talk on that, and since you said all that, Brendan, you're talking about a court case, and there's cases that are not even seen or heard, have not been heard. I don't think you and I have the ability or anybody to discuss what both people are doing right now. But if you want to get your homework done, then go on to frankspeech.com and look and see what's happening out there right now. Look at the evidence that's coming out today that you're not even paying attention to, of all the attacks that came on the Dominion machine and how they're all being used. Now I understand you know the numbers, and I understand what we did in the count, but I also had friends down in downtown Detroit, and we saw things drop in this. So there's some questions that we need to you and I. And to say that Sidney Powell lost her case, she's still out there along with General Flynn, General McNamara. You got to watch these guys. These are people that are out there to protect all of us. So I don't want to get into that because that's not for you and me to make that judgment. But everybody do their homework. Don't listen to what the media keeps bumping into your head. It's not true. The COVID is not true. We need to stand up and take care of ourselves. I had a friend of mine from Argentina. 20 years ago, went through the same thing. And they became American citizens. And they go, Rick, I can't understand. United States of America was all across the country and fights and protects against tyranny. It protects against the stuff going on. And yet in this country, we walked away from it. I'm looking for Americans to stand up and check this stuff out. Don't let somebody tell you what's going on. Because what you just said there is false. There's more to that City Hall than what you know, just one little spot. So you don't be putting that out there unless you have the proof. I don't have the proof. You don't have the proof. And you're putting this out in front of the public. That was wrong. That's my opinion on it.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Again, let's go to some Carol. You got one more question, and then we'll go to the audience.
In the beginning of the state-imposed COVID-19 restrictions, the state was divided into different sections, with Lapeer County grouped with the metropolitan Detroit area. Do you believe the governor should hand over COVID-19 restrictions to the local county governments? If that was the case, how different would the Lapeer County restrictions be from the state control?
Gary, you want to answer that?
I know you don't want to answer, but go ahead.
Well, there's no, basically I have no answer to that, because first of all, we sent numerous resolutions and stuff to the governor asking that we be taken out of that district. And we actually got a response from her. 2 or 3 different responses saying, no, we're stuck in that district. So it's not that we didn't try to get it moved. We did try to get it moved. But it seems like we're just stuck there, and that's the way we're going to stay. You know, I mean, these districts are there, and we can send them, we've done it. Brendan will tell you that. How many times we've done that? 3 times we've done that. So, you know, basically we do have pretty much control over our own health department here. And we're trying to work, people want to get vaccinated, we're working as hard as we can to try to get them vaccinated. But then again, I didn't say you have to get vaccinated, I'm just saying for those that want to get vaccinated, and it seems like there's a lot of people that do, because boy, the lines get longer every day.
Yeah.
So, and there's been a lot of people, and I can vouch for this, those commissioners, there's been a lot of people dying in this county lately. It's sad. How many people actually have this? You got a grocery store right here in town, in Kroger's. They had 40 people with COVID all at the same time. So they had to shut down the store at 6 o'clock in the afternoon because they didn't have any help. So there's some real problems here with this whole deal. So and we've been trying to work on it for anybody that wants to do it. Everybody over there laughing. Okay.
Okay, you got any other comments? Go ahead, Brandon.
No, the other thing I would add is, with pertaining to the question, I think absolutely it should be local, because we at the county commission know the residents of Lapeer County more than Governor Whitmer does, or some bureaucrat in Lansing. And quite frankly, the biggest exposure that took place during this COVID pandemic is the amount of bureaucracy that exists in Lansing that controls us to an nth degree that really ought not to be. The fact of the matter is, the way how the governor was able to transition from the emergency declaration through the 1945 law to the 75 law, and then say, oh, well, you know what, you're right, the 75 law was not used correctly, it is unconstitutional, but we have health orders, so we don't have to use that law, it is quite disgusting. It really is. It shouldn't have gone like that. The fact is, it's passed, though. It is law. It is what it is. The state's going to have to make the decisions to change it, but I absolutely agree that local governments know local issues more than the state government will ever, and we should have had a lot more power during this pandemic because, quite frankly, the state can't manage a pandemic situation. We know that now.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments from the board? Rick, you got anything? Rick, you got a comment?
Not at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Hold on. And one more question, and then again to the audience.
I was going to say, if Dial had any comments there.
Sorry.
Tim, I would add that, as Commissioner Roy pointed out, we did communicate to the governor starting pretty early on that this needed to be much more given to local control. I can't say that we were listened to very much at that point. But in retrospect, or in fairness, maybe to the governor at this point, she's not gone back to those blanket orders. She's now really using some local control, or allowing us to use some local control with schools and other things. So it's better than it was, but the precedent that set is not a very happy one if we have future issues like COVID-19.
Okay. Thanks, Dial, for that. That's a good point. All right. I'd like to open up questions for the commissioners from the audience. So who's got a question you'd like to ask these gentlemen? Anybody? Let's see your hands. Everybody's going, oh, there's one. Okay. Tell them who you are and who you're addressing the comment to. If anybody.
Okay. My name is Carol Wynn, and I am from Brendan's district, actually. And my question is, what constitutes a township board declaring a local state of emergency?
I wonder who you're talking to.
Yeah, that's my question.
Good question. Go ahead, guys.
I have no idea why they did it.
Are you trying to find logic in that particular township?
Yes.
I can't find any logic there. I can't help you. Sorry. I can't tell you. I really can't. I'm not entirely sure what the logic was behind it, because actually I don't believe that was even done via a vote, if I recall.
Well,
But I don't know where it sits in, so I can't tell you. I'd love to talk to you more about it after the meeting, though.
okay, well, they, on their telephone meeting last night, they did vote on it, and they declared it. But what really gets me is, just like the state using the 45 law, and I think it's the 76 law,
Yeah.
Is that right? 76 law, and now she's recommending. So they're saying, well, she's giving it more to local school districts or local counties, whatever. So now she's saying, I recommend that two-year-old to 4. Anyway, so the local thing. So last night they did take a vote and they did declare, but the numbers that they used in their motion were the totals from the whole year. So it makes it sound.
For those who don't know, by the way,
You
we're
could
talking about Marathon Township. They declared a public emergency, and what I actually was referencing to is they declared a public emergency before they were actually in a public emergency, because they were already using the teleconference, which, personally, I think you got to have the meeting to declare an emergency before you can go into a teleconference meeting. That's just me, though. So it was the decision was kind of made that they were going to bring it up and it was going to go teleconferences. As you all know, you can't have a meeting without having a state of emergency. I was actually on that call last night. I called in on a number, so it wasn't seen that it was me that was on there, because I just wanted to sit and listen. And yeah, no, I don't quite understand their frame of references. But as I said, that's a township issue. Nothing we can do at the county level, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So there's no real answer then?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Okay, who else would like to talk? You don't want to talk?
I got some facts for you.
Okay.
I'm Male Plains guinea pig and Henry Ford's guinea pig. And what we're working on, it takes 20 years to get it in effect. But this coronavirus was made by a woman that worked in Yale Hospital, the RNA, in Yale Hospital. And when it come out, when the bomb was in, they was working on it, the animals was dying, they was having a lot of problems with it. Then the virus went down, went the other way, and they ordered her to quit. So she wouldn't quit, so they fired her. She went to a small hospital in Pennsylvania and studied her study. And she finally figured out how to transmit this over. There's rumors out there, once they put it in, you can't take it out. You can do anything. My drug that my wife's using for cancer today is basically the same system that makes her immune system attack her cancer. So if you look at in-home quarantines, 72% of the cases was people that's quarantined in their homes. That tells you something right there. So in England, this virus we have has come from England. The bad one we have is in Brazil. We have another one in California now. But in England, what they did is they went to one shot. It was 80% effective. They did 60% of the population, and they basically just about got rid of this virus. Israel has vaccinated everybody, and their virus is basically gone. So you have to get up around 60 to 70%. But the biggest deal made is when they made the RNA, and now they're going to be able to attack cancer. It's going to take care of everything they have. They can take it out, they can put it back in. But it's one of the biggest studies, breakthroughs they've had. So that's just a few facts I'll give you.
Thanks.
Little trivia you ought to know here, fellas. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else want to talk to these gentlemen at the board here? Yeah. They come a long ways to talk to you. So anything you want to know? One second. Harry's that next. First, Christine.
No, I was going to build that.
Oh.
Go ahead and get Harry on.
Harry's helping.
I'm Harry Akers, and I was just wondering earlier in your introduction, you mentioned that you had a lot of positions for volunteers, but a lot of people don't volunteer for those positions. Is there a list somewhere, or how do they know what to volunteer for to help out?
Well, I can get you that list, Harry. We'll put one together for you.
I'm saying if you put it out to the public, you'd probably get people to volunteer. Not just me.
Well,
We could probably provide that to the Tea Party at some point when we have a vacancy.
Sure.
is there a list, you guys, of these jobs when they come available?
We have a couple of vacancies that have been vacant since 2019, actually. So,
Front, do the microphone.
They're specific to different districts.
yeah, we have a list that we have a couple of vacancies actually vacant since like 2019, but they're more specific. So we have like a lawyer representative for the emergency management board. That's one, for instance. So you need to be a lawyer, but still something that's needed. And then also there's another one, the senior center, that board, which used to be DOSA. That board has a couple of vacancies on it. So we're looking for people for that position as well. Those are district specific, so you have to live in a specific district. Like my district, I currently have a representative. I think
Mine's still vacant.
yeah, Gary's is still vacant. Rick's is still vacant. I think there's one more vacancy. I don't know. Brian, is your vacant?
I think it's senior coalition for like Attica area vacant?
Yeah, maybe Linda's, but there are a couple of vacancies. If you want, we can. I can at the next Tea Party meeting bring you a list of the vacancies that we have for those positions.
We appreciate that. What do you do with them now? And then, I mean, where are they listed?
Right now, they're just listed within minutes and notes at the meetings. Every once in a while, you'll see a newspaper article about it, but not super common out in Gary. Is there anything you want to add to that, or is that pretty much covered?
No, normally what happens if I can't find anyone to fill that senior position, I usually just go ahead and go to the meetings.
I see.
I just fill the spot until we can find someone.
Do you think it would help you if you were, and I'm not telling you your business at all, if you like posted an ad in the newspaper for them? Like if you needed something
One thing about that position is you have to be over 65 years old and nobody will admit to it.
We have to, if there's an opening, I'm also a trustee at Elba Township Board.
I'd like to make a comment too.
Okay.
For those on that list, as we're getting here, and you guys want to see us, and we're here tonight at the Tea Party, you ask questions. But I would like to encourage every one of you to come to our county commission meetings on Thursday mornings, whether in the future when they open it up for you. And some of the stuff will be brought out at those times. But yes, there's different places for you to check out. Search us out, and we'll be glad to help you with volunteer stuff. But we would like you to come to our meetings so you hear some of this stuff too, because it's hard for us to get everything out.
And if you can't show up to the meetings, we are working on a way. The currently is being filmed by Lapeer now, but there is an editing issue. But we are working on a way to get that access to the public. It won't be necessarily broadcast live, but it will be broadcasted post. And I actually talked to the guy from Lapeer now just a couple of days ago, and we're going to get that up and working, some sort of form, whether it's a YouTube or direct influence. But I think we probably by the end of the month, or maybe the end of May at the very latest, just because they work a little slow sometimes, we'll have some sort of way for you guys to watch the meetings if you can't show up in person.
Okay, thank you very much for that, and I think that'll help us, that's certainly for sure. Okay, anybody else with some questions? Bill, you have one?
Yes, Chairman Roy, you had mentioned the whole thing with COVID, and I know this is, especially right now, people have been devastated. All over the county, I know I've had a number of customers with what I do that are not here now, that they were here about a year ago. So it's absolutely real, and if you've got pre-existing conditions, if you've got things that could possibly be a complication, for Pete's sake, just stay as safe as you can. That being said, there's a couple things. First off, one of the meetings that I did attend was I know when there was discussion with the commission about the types of vaccines we were going to use. And I know the commission was fully prepared to do whatever, whatever you guys were fully prepared to fund, whatever kind of vaccines we wanted. Well, and unfortunately now we have with Moderna and J&J, and I know there's some issues with that. But I know the Pfizer was turned down for the lack of, and again, the commission was totally willing to do that. So our health department decided that it was better to go with the others, and for I'm sure good reasons at the time. But with the whole COVID situation, there's some questions, and we haven't been able, and I know our legislators, Senator Daley and Representative Howell have not been able to get answers to a lot of stuff. And I know with our local county commission, perhaps maybe it's been explained to you. I don't know that I've heard a good explanation, but when they do the stats and statistics, the vital county record search, it's very hard to actually trust information when numbers just seem to keep being pulled out of the air. Now, if our health directors maybe has briefed you folks on what it means to do, I think you guys could be instrumental in clearing up a lot of misinformation. So I think a lot of this stuff is maybe it's communication mix-up. But when you can't, when the numbers are they can't seem to get any answers in Lansing. But our local health department is that's under our jurisdiction. That's under you folks have jurisdiction on that. Maybe it's possible that if that could be brought up, and maybe an informational thing, just for the public good, to be able to clear up. A lot of people maybe are a little irritated or angry about things that they don't need to be if the information is out there. So I would just encourage you that if you could do that, I think that would be great. I know the other question and the other issue is as far as our courthouses being open, it seems like it's kind of gone through some stages. Who determines that, and where it would be?
I determine it.
Okay. Well, I was at the courthouse today, and I just was wondering, I know everything else is open. We have to go to work. We have to go. Life has to go on, and I just was wondering, at what point, what is the criteria that we will see things open back up? Is it no COVID? Is it partial COVID?
As soon as my OSHA leaves town. Really want an answer? They've got a group of people now working that's got more authority than the DNR.
You might
Really?
here.
Huh?
Please.
They've got more authority now than the DNR. And if they come in and they find us, for example, if we're having a public meeting, and they come into that public meeting, they find out that we don't have people spaced out, and we don't have people wearing masks, and we don't have somebody doing contact tracing at the door, they'll lay $20,000 on the county.
Wow.
And they're in Lapeer, because a lot of the bars and restaurants have already felt their wrath, so they're serious about this thing. You don't need a liquor license taken away, I'll tell you that, by the Liquor Control Commission, because it's awful hard to ever get it back.
Right.
So I try to tell people, careful what you're doing. I'd like to see the bars and restaurants all open too. But like the courthouse, I mean, we fall under those rules. And so now the health department's still locked. The Register of Deeds, we're going to open that back up, but that building's still locked down too. We're going to have to put someone in there. They're going to have to come in through one entrance, not both. And then they're going to have to be able to do the contact tracing there, have their temperatures taken, and comply with the rules to get into the courthouse. We opened it up. We tried to open it up at first. In fact, I was talked into opening it last summer. That didn't work out too well. So we have to close it again. So we tried to open it on a limited basis for the chief judge, because I don't know what it is about certain people, but attorneys have a real problem they can't read. So, and I'll tell any one of them that. They were outside waiting for employees to come into the courthouse. They were sneaking in. We got pictures of them. Sneaking into the courthouse. And I'm telling you something. It's unbelievable. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I'm going to tell all of you what's going on. Really, I mean, the courthouse, we're holding a public meeting. Well, limited public, because we can only have so many people in the room. And they're required to wear masks when they come into the room. Well, you know that. You've been in the meetings. They're required to wear masks. And we're trying to slowly open that up to the public. But last week, I don't know what happened last week, but 2 ladies came into the courthouse. I don't know how they got in the front door without masks on. They went through the whole courthouse. That way, it came down to the board meeting. One of them asked if she could come in during public time. I told her absolutely not. If she wanted to speak during public time, she'd have to do it outside of the door. And I asked her, how did you get in there like that? We had another person, for example, I'll tell you what happens, in the clerk's office. We had an individual in the clerk's office, worked in the clerk's office, goes home on a weekend, gets exposed to COVID, or gets COVID. She comes in, she worked on both floors. She exposed everybody in the clerk's office, everybody upstairs and down. Health department sent them all home for 14 days. All home for 14 days. 2 of them came down with a real bad COVID. This has been going on over there. We're trying to prevent it, but it doesn't seem like it's going to work.
Okay.
Well, having said that, just so you know, my wife and I were in there today. Everything was efficient. Everybody, of course, we came in with masks. Everybody seems to be doing their job. I got no complaint other than, like I said, just that's something that a lot of people have mentioned. Well, at least you guys aren't like the trying to get a driver's license or at the Secretary of State. That's a whole nother nightmare.
I know about that.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything else?
So just so you guys know, that we get an update from the health department. We get an email, usually one to 2 times a week. Tells us about new cases. Now, the problem with the new case thing, they're getting their information from, the hospitals and stuff like that. So, if you get tested for COVID, from the way I understand this, you get tested today and you have COVID. You get tested a week later and you have COVID. That's 2 cases.
Yeah.
It's not our health department's fault, okay? It's the way the state is counting this stuff. Okay?
I appreciate that, but at least you're passing the information on, and that's the problem is.
It's on the website too, and I would encourage everybody, just as a last note there, I would encourage everybody to go on the website. They do post these on a it's at least once a week, if not twice a week basis.
Website?
Yes. Yep. So look at it, because it also explains some of those questions of what's a probable case and all that stuff.
This is basically, I'll just give you for example, for Lapeer County, this is what we got Monday. Lapeer County confirmed cases, 6,865 probable cases, 1,198 deaths, 152. So obviously this is a total from the start of COVID on this. So when you look at the death toll, and does anybody die of anything else these days?
No.
So, you know, when you look at 152, you know, and I mean, that sounds like a big number, but what did we have originally just in Lapeer in those 2 nursing homes? It was almost half that right off the bat. So when you look at the total number of deaths, I mean, I don't think it's that horrible, guys.
I'd like to answer your question on there. I'd like to make a question. I do my research, and this is the first year in history in the United States that we had no flu in Michigan.
Isn't that amazing?
We had 0 flu. Look it up. And it's 0. They're fudging it. I have a person that went to the undertaker, and the undertaker's telling them they're getting like $2,000 more if it's COVID's case. Right. I'm trying to get him to testify. So it's very interesting. So it's a miracle because we had no flu this winter. 0.
Well, it's way more than 2,000, sir.
Another
I
thing
hate
to
to
add
correct you, but I believe when the hospital has a death and it's COVID, I believe it's an additional $13,500.
Yeah, I'd like to just end with that much, conclusion with that. There's just so everybody knows. Oh, Rick, I'm sorry, go ahead, buddy.
That's quite all right, I understand. The other part of the equation is across the country. The death rate right now is less than it was last year. The total death rate. So what's going on here? COVID numbers are real high. Flu's gone. I have people that are dying from cancers and heart attacks. I have more of that dying in my family than I have COVID. I have a lot of people that have COVID. So we're mixing a lot of numbers together. So when you're coming to me with numbers for COVID, I want to know all the numbers. I want to know the depression side. I want to know the suicide. I want to know the heart attacks. I want to know the cancer patients. I want to know all the deaths. America's smart. We know how to take care of ourselves. William, because I just said it earlier. There's people that are thinking, you know who you are. Take care of yourself. We're making too much of an issue here. Let's get back to freedom. We're going to get these COVID cases. The kids are not going to die from it. You're not going to die from it.
Okay.
But let's protect ourselves. I'm just saying, let's protect ourselves. Well, we're trying to communicate here. And we're not communicating because right now we're on a Zoom. You can't listen to the county commissioners right now on a Zoom. You can, but we're not doing it. Now, I can't personally, as a county commissioner, vote and participate. That's my issue. But the county should allow you to voice your opinion. It should be public time of what's going on around the county in a Zoom. And we're not doing it.
Well, that's not entirely true, Rick, because we had Zoom when we had to, and if you really want to participate as a county commissioner, then I would suggest you come back from Florida, be in Michigan, where your district who elected you to represent your people.
Okay.
And I'm going to stand up to that. And I am coming back, but I told you, the whole state's down. You got number 1 COVID going on. I'm down here because this is the freest part of the country.
Okay.
But I'm down because everybody was locked down and we were Zooming. I still participate in Lapeer County. I still get with my people in Lapeer County. And I stand up for my people in Lapeer County. They're behind me. My area, I have no problem. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about communication between the people that are asking for questions. We could have a Zoom in there because it's already there, it's not costing anything, but they could participate and talk to you.
Okay. I'm happy to cut it, Rick. I'm sorry. That's absolutely true, and I know that he comes to my meetings or elbow meetings a lot also when he's in town. Thanks, Rick. Let me just say, just to conclude that whole line of thought, they've already been told, or you've already been told, that if they see COVID on the medical record someplace, hospitals get more money. Okay? So it only makes sense that they're going to try to have COVID on everything they can. Now, I'm not saying that to let you think, well, then it really isn't a terrible thing. It is. And I'm not saying it isn't. But you gotta realize that a lot of that stuff is made up, okay? And just keep that in mind when you're thinking about all that, okay? Okay, now, any more questions from the audience? Myra, hold on. Myra.
Okay.
Here she is.
Okay. My question is with kind of the new people in Washington and their new push for gun control and attack on our Second Amendment, I was just wondering, since you signed the resolution to become a sanctuary county, how, if they do pass some of these unconstitutional laws, will that play any role in kind of protecting our rights here in Lapeer County?
That's a good question. Somebody better answer that.
Well, here's what I explained during the resolution process too. You have to understand, and this actually kind of goes back into the history. So it was mentioned in the opening that these commission positions are colonial-based positions, right? A lot of states back in the colonial days, what are they set up as? They're set up as commonwealths, right? So a commonwealth is a collection of counties coming together and creating a state. So places like Massachusetts, Virginia is a really good example of that, where counties have extensive amount of power with the state. Hence why there's actually a state called West Virginia, because the counties of Virginia, which at that time they were all one, decided we're not going to be a part of Virginia because Virginia is part of the South, so they seceded to form their own state because they can do that under the Constitution, the Commonwealth Charter of Virginia. Michigan's not set up like that. Michigan, here's how it's set up. So a lot of people probably picture Michigan as it's a state of Michigan, then it's the county, then it's the township, and then it's a city, right? The way it's actually set up is Michigan, townships, village, and cities and townships are on the same level. Counties are like this little offshoot of the state. We're an arm of the state. So with the resolutions being passed, I can tell you I voted for both resolutions. Will they actually make an instrumental difference in our abilities to be able to enforce federal law? No. It kind of goes back to, does everyone remember that whole sanctuary city situation back with the immigration laws? It's kind of like that, because back then it was local sheriffs, either at the city or county level, saying, I'm not going to enforce federal law. That's essentially what it would be here, is our sheriff or local law enforcement saying, I'm not going to enforce that federal law. And as the sheriff said, Sheriff McKenna said, I think rather eloquently, he would be a part of that situation of, I'm not going to enforce federal law until the court, because let me tell you, if this bill passes, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. It's just going to. There's no way it's not. And essentially a lot of places, our sheriff included, I think I include him in this, would basically say, I'm not going to enforce the law until it goes to the court system, which is a completely legal argument, completely legal thing to do, and it follows the process that's necessary. But personally, I don't think that the gun control law that's being pushed is going to pass, because Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema has been a real pain in the butt for Chuck Schumer. But that's a whole other topic. But in regards to the resolutions, do the resolutions have real teeth? Unfortunately, not really, but they do show intent, and they do show our support for the Second Amendment and our opposition to federal control over guns. As I said, most of the power here belongs to law enforcement, so whether that be the city police officer, the city police chiefs, or the county police, county sheriffs. Those are the people that can have more control over enforcement. We're not an enforcement agency. I think I said that pretty basic, right, Gary? Is there anything you want to add?
No, the only thing I'd add is, have you all read the Michigan Constitution? Michigan's Constitution is twice as tough as the federal Constitution on gun control. I mean, they just flat want nothing to do with it here. So just read the Michigan Constitution. Whoever wrote that a long time ago did a good job at protecting your firearms, your guns, and everything else.
All right. Okay, any other questions at the board? Right now I got a couple out here, and then we're going to have to wrap it up.
Jim, go ahead and take care of these when you got we got a couple online questions.
Okay, good, thank you.
We take care of everything here first.
This is Harry again. I just wanted to follow up on that. The question, though, is The sheriff, I agree with you, he is going to be one of the ones that's strong and stands up and doesn't enforce that. Will you back him up?
Well, of course we will. He's our sheriff.
But that's not what you said. I just want to make sure that you said it on the record. Thank you, though. And I appreciate everything that you did to pass that resolution, both of them.
And just to be clear, I am 100% in support of gun rights because, and I'll tell you something, I'm sure you guys have already noticed it, you are going to be seeing a ton of articles and a ton of shootings all across the country all of a sudden. It's going to be all over the news. I'm sure you've already seen it. You're going to be hearing about shootings in Orlando. You're going to be hearing about shootings in Mississippi, little tiny towns across the country. There's an agenda there, right? There's an agenda there. I can tell you, and by the way, these shootings are shootings that take place regardless. It's not all of a sudden they're popping up. These happen. All of a sudden, the news media is starting to talk about Chicago shootings. All of a sudden, it's a big deal, even though it hasn't been a big deal for the last 10 years. So there's an agenda. I can tell you I'm going to back up the sheriff 100% if he decides not to enforce these unconstitutional laws, and I'm sure every single member of the board will support me in that statement.
Okay, we got one more question here, and then we're going to go to the two on the phone. Go ahead, sir.
So my question, David Koning, and my question is, are the commissioners going to be, have they been approached by the federal government for taking illegal immigrants from the border, and are you going to?
No.
That's easy.
That's a good question. Did I get a no on that? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, we haven't been contacted by the federal government to take.
No, but if you were,
Hell no.
No?
hell no. All right.
No and no.
And I can see Rick's face, so I know he says the same thing. So. And Dial thinks that way also, I'm sure. Anyhow, okay, good.
Oh, for sneaking them in, just so you guys are aware, in the state of Michigan right now. I'm in the
Okay. What, I got, Dial, what'd you say? Dial, did you say something?
I'm sorry?
I thought you said something. Okay. All right. Any more questions? Somebody had another one.
Online, there was some questions Bill said.
Oh, yeah, online. Thank you. I don't know who you are online, but we got questions that Bill has recorded, and he's going to take the mic here, and we'll go through these.
Right. Just one. So far, I haven't gotten back with it. This is a question from online from Pierce. He says, in relation to the previous comments earlier about everything that's going on, in relation to previous comments, I would like to make the statement that we are truly being deceived. At what point do our local leaders begin to make decisions on their own and stand up for their citizens? If we are being deceived, we should not act as though everything is cool. Now, that was him. And let's see, we got one more.
Well, let's answer that one first.
That was more of a statement, but
yeah.
What's the question?
Yeah.
It was just, again, in relation, I would like to make the statement that we are truly being deceived. At what point do our local leaders begin to make decisions on their own to stand up for their citizens? If we are being deceived, we should not act as though everything is cool. So basically, he's saying that you should.
Do you think any member of this body is deceiving anybody?
No, I'm just reading.
No, we're just asking the question. You got another one, Bill?
No.
Okay, anybody else? Final question. All right, thank you. Now I'm going to give board members, we're so happy that you're here. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. We're going to give you opportunity now to say your closing statements. So anything you want to say about yourselves or about the commission, about us, feel free to say it within reason.
Tim?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Now, Henning, if I can, go back to something that sort of started the discussions where we're talking about our budget. Our general fund budget is, for this year is $21,787,000. And that's the expense budget. Unfortunately, and we do not spend all of that money. That's budgeted, but unfortunately we don't spend it all. Because the board, it has been for years and years conservative about spending. But we do have a budgetary challenge because our income, estimated income, is $17 million, I think $300 and some thousand. So there is a gap, and there has been a gap, so that each year we're slowly eroding money that we've put away. So long term, short term, we're fiscally responsible. We've cut back and made a lot of changes over the years, especially starting with 2008, 2009, and the tremendous problems that we had at that point. But we have a structural deficit that we're slowly trying to deal with. So I didn't want us to come across as saying that everything is rosy, and that any money coming in, is going to be extra. We're still, just to keep our basic services going, we're still challenged with trying to increase our revenue and hold the line, or in some cases be able to decrease our expenses. So that's a major challenge that we faced for years. Lapeer County is one of the counties that has the lowest tax rate. I think we're like the 5th or 6th lowest in the state. And well, that's good for the taxpayers in the sense that they're paying less to the county for their taxes. It means too that we have less money to give to services. So it's not uncommon for people who come up from Macomb or Oakland or other counties that have higher rates and much larger service areas to say, well, how come Lapeer County doesn't have these services, or how come you're not this efficient? We're trying with what we've got. We have a new county administrative controller, Quentin Bishop, who I think will help us with that. But it's something that we can't forget. We need to continue to deal with. All this money that's coming from the federal government for this rescue plan is something we can't use for our basic, and this was pointed out earlier, we cannot use that for our basic day-to-day, year-in, year-out expenses. We need, if we're going to get that money and use it, we need to use it on things that are long-term in nature and don't distort our annual budgets. So that's another challenge. You might think it's a good one, but I'm not sure. It's got some real challenges for us to be thoughtful, resist a lot of pressures to do things on the short term. But I think this board is going to look forward to doing that and rise to the challenge of using it as wisely as we can.
Thank you for that, Dial.
Thank you.
Any comments on that statement? Go ahead.
Just as closing comments or based on Dials?
Based on Dials right now. Anything? Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions, we're going to ask the commissioners for their closing comments. So go ahead, Brandon.
So I just wanted to say thank you again for showing up. Just to echo what Dial had said, we have an interesting financial situation in the county. Does anyone know when our millage or county millage was passed? Anybody? Just a guess? 2010, okay. Any more guesses out there? 1985. I wasn't even born yet. So, that's an interesting little wrinkle there. And for everyone who knows how government financing works, there's something called the Headley rollback. That means we actually lose money over time. We've actually lost $1.5 million due to Headley. If we were to restore our Headley rollback, if we were just restored it to the level that you all voted for, whoever was around here in 1985, we'd actually cover our deficit. Simple as that. But unfortunately, that's not how that's not how financing works. So that's something just to keep in consideration too. The other thing I just want to add, kind of I guess a little bit into the immigration question. One thing that I know the county doesn't have direct influence over, but does have some indirect, is the issues facing us is housing. It's a real big problem, keeping people to stay. People my age, I can just tell you myself, I can't find a house that I can afford. I don't make a terrible living, but I can tell you this, I can't afford a $250,000 house on 10 acres. And that's what it's like all across the county, especially in my district. I could probably find something cheaper in the city of Lapeer, but that's not where I want to live, you know. The stimulus money is going to be an interesting dragon to slay. We'll see what comes out from the federal government. I know this board will be very responsible in its spending. We're not going to buy a waterfall or, you know, have chocolate fountains at every floor. I can tell you that. Maybe if we need to spend our money quick, it's a possibility. Anyhow, I just want to say thank you all again for showing up and being involved. Unfortunately, something I have noticed is I've been looking through the old county records. I'm in the 70s at the moment. The county board was established in 1968. Formerly, it was under the Board of Supervisors. People used to show up. We used to have, on average, between 15 to 20, and even in some parts of the, some meetings, 50 people show up to a meeting on a regular basis. Now we get barely 5 or 6. There's a general decline in people attending meetings, and believe it or not, back then the meetings actually were about the same time, and they actually were split between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. On Thursdays and Fridays. So a general decline in public engagement has been very concerning, and I think that's part of the reason we're having issues having government that we feel represents us the most. The last thing I just want to add is with this election stuff, I would love to come back and explain some of that. As I said, the Republican meeting, there's a lot to it. I was out knocking doors for, this is a little outside of commission stuff, but I was out knocking doors for Donald Trump during 2020 and 2016. I was actually in 3 different states during 2020. I was in, of course, Michigan, and outside of Michigan, I was in Wisconsin, Iowa, and the state of North Carolina. And I can tell you, for every one door I knocked, there were 2 people, 2 Democrats knocking the door ahead of me. We got outflanked, severely outflanked in that last election. We can't just sit here and say it was corruption, it was change. Sure, fraud existed, but let me tell you, we got outflanked the same way that Hillary Clinton got outflanked in 2016, and we can never be outflanked again. And I'll tell you, in 2022, I'll be out knocking doors, and I want to talk to every single one of you about that as well. So, sorry to get off topic there, but that's something I think is necessary to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brendan. Rick, you and Dia, hold on, please, and go through here, and then we'll get your last comment.
I want to thank everyone for inviting us to this meeting, but I will say that we'll protect your money. So have a nice evening. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for coming out, spending your time to come out here and ask us questions, and by all means, you have every right. We work for you, and we're here to do a job that our constituents put their faith in us to do, and I'm sure that we'll do it to the best of our ability and not let you down here in Lapeer County.
Thank you. Rick, closing comments?
I do want to thank everybody for attending. As I said earlier, I would like to see you all attend our county commissioners meetings. I know some of them already on Zoom as well as in the room have attended. I have in this same room and on Zoom, since we are not Zooming in the county, have called me. I have talked to my constituents, even though I'm in Florida. Some people don't understand I could work from here. My voice is the same. And the same amount of people I talk to at home, I'm talking to here. I just don't walk into their building today because most of them actually are closed. I just think everybody needs to protect themselves with this COVID stuff. If you're sick, make sure you protect yourself and wear your mask. I think freedom needs to come back. Get rid of some of this depression, get people out to escape and enjoy life. Some of them are blaming it in spring break. Well, these COVID numbers started going up before spring break, so I'm not buying that. But we do have to start asking questions to the people. what's going on. Give us the real numbers, let us see. As a county commissioner, we're over the budgets. We really don't make any policy change. As Brendan said earlier, the Second Amendment, we did the resolution. It's for the leaders to get together and stand up behind the people and let them know that we are here. But we can't change the governor, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General, which is not even following legislation. They're not following the law. They just disregard our laws. But we all need to have a voice and stand up for that. But back to communication. And the county needs to get serious about this, because right now the state of Michigan and Lansing is talking about closing up their office buildings outside of the Capitol and bringing the people inside the Capitol to save money, because they have more and work at home Zooming. So that's the wave of the future. And there's people that want to communicate with us right now. They can't communicate. If they are communicating with me, I've been forward, I'm still getting communication. Because we're not Zooming in the county. The biggest industry of the whole thing, they can't even hear our voices out there. I can't even hear their voices because I'm in Florida. My constituents hear more from me now than they would when I was in Michigan. So that didn't change. But we want to get to the community who wants to answer or hear what we're saying. They're in the Zoom right now. They're on the Zoom right now. Some of them, I know they came in there without a mask. I heard about that. That wasn't the first news to me tonight, and I wasn't even in the meeting. So that's how much I do know about what's going on in our county. I'm saying every leader needs to stand up to this crap. Quit playing games. Let's try to get our country back in order. Let's try to open up things. But if we don't, at least do so that people communicate with us. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Thanks,
Rick. I'm just saying we need to take a look at everything that's going on.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Di, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay,
I wanted to...
Yeah. Your closing comments?
Thank you. I did want to say thank you to the Tea Party for inviting us. You're the only group in all these years that has invited us to do essentially an educational program as a board. It's been a few years since you've done that. I hope you'll do it again, maybe more regularly than the last 2 years, because we do need to be doing this. It's part of our job to make sure that people understand what's going on, how things get done or don't get done. So thank you for taking the time to have us and to listen to us. You are involved in the community and community issues. I wish there were more people that would get involved like you are.
Thank you.
I'd add one other thing. I agree with Rick. We need to get back online in some form. I'm not sure it's Zoom, because I know Zoom doesn't work for me out of my home. But we need to have some kind of way to use the technology that exists, and we aren't talking about it. I know that's one of the topics that we'll have in our next policies and procedures meeting. So thank you for being interested and being concerned. We look forward to getting back with you together and discussing county government and county issues again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dial. One more quick